The narrative of Sean Strickland's one-sided title fight loss to Dricus du Plessis at UFC 312 has been permanently altered, not by a new training camp or strategic revelation, but by a delayed confession of physical brokenness. In a characteristic blend of blunt honesty and dark humor, Strickland has revealed he entered that rematch with a severely compromised body, carrying a broken shoulder sustained in a motorcycle accident while riding with famed stunt rider Axel Honjiks. "I was in Colombia getting stem cells on my shoulder, and they hit me up for the fight," Strickland explained, framing his decision to compete not as warrior's courage, but as a fighter's economic necessity. "The thing with the UFC, dog, you don't say no. They are our pimps. You don't say no to the master. I was backed up into a corner taking that fight." This admission reframes his flat, uncharacteristically passive performance, a fighter known for relentless forward pressure rendered impotent not by du Plessis' skill alone, but by an injury that robbed him of his core tools, the ability to effectively jab, defend takedowns, and throw with his trademark volume. This revelation adds a layer of tragic what-if to Sean Strickland's recent past, but his focus is squarely on a surgically repaired present and a deliberately plotted future. He speaks of his forced hiatus not with frustration, but with relief, stating the time off to heal has been amazing and allowed him to be a fat, lazy piece of shit for a while. This physical reset is crucial as he prepares for a pivotal comeback against the surging Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez at UFC Houston on February 21st. A healthy Strickland represents a nightmare stylistic matchup for Hernandez. His piston-like jab, improved takedown defense, and granite chin are the exact antidotes to Hernandez's grinding, submission-heavy pressure. A dominant win would instantly re-establish Strickland as the division's most compelling storyline, a former champion with a legitimate grievance against the man who beat him injured, now hunting the new king, Khamzat Chimaev. Thus, Strickland's path is now one of vindication. The loss to du Plessis is compartmentalized as an asterisk, a fight he never should have taken. The bout with Hernandez is the true litmus test of his recovered form and enduring elite status. And looming beyond that is the potential grudge match of the year, a healed and hungry Sean Strickland against the volatile champion Khamzat Chimaev. That fight, dripping with personal animosity and stylistic intrigue, is the mega fight the division needs. For it to hold its maximum weight, Strickland must first prove in Houston that the broken fighter from UFC 312 is gone, replaced by the fully operational, nihilistic pressure fighter who once wore the crown. His shoulder is healed. Now he aims to prove his championship aspirations are too. The mythical, never-to-be super fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall may have slipped into the realm of combat sports fantasy, but its ghost continues to be analyzed and debated by the sharpest minds in the sport. Adding a compelling and controversial layer to that eternal what-if, former champion Dominick Cruz has dissected the fleeting, foul-marred moments of Aspinall's title defense against Cyril Gane and emerged with a stark conclusion: Jon Jones would dominate the wrestling. Cruz's analysis is surgical, focusing not on Aspinall's injury, but on the strategic failure that preceded it. He expected the dynamic English champion to easily take down Gane, a fighter Jones himself wrestled with ease, but was surprised by Gane's improved takedown defense, and more pointedly, by Aspinall's inability to impose his grappling will. "I think we also see that Tom Aspinall might not be as high-level of a wrestler as we might have thought," Cruz stated, suggesting Aspinall's previous wrestling success came against inferior grapplers. In Cruz's expert view, Jones's blend of elite junior college fundamentals, nasty Greco-Roman acumen, and unparalleled fight IQ would create a real problem, allowing him to use his reach to stifle Aspinall's combinations and control the fight in the clinch and on the mat. This critique is fascinating because it attacks the perceived foundation of Aspinall's threat. His explosive power and speed are undeniable, but Cruz implies that against a wrestler of Jones's caliber and creativity, those tools could be neutralized. Jones's legacy is built on solving puzzles exactly like this, using his length and wrestling to ground dynamic strikers, from Quentin "Rampage" Jackson to Daniel Cormier to Cyril Gane himself. Cruz's assessment paints Aspinall as another brilliant but ultimately solvable equation for the greatest tactical mind in MMA history. The analysis also carries a tinge of what could have been for Gane, whom Cruz believes looked sharp enough to potentially earn a Jones rematch had he won, adding a layer of tragic irony to the eye-poke ending that Cruz refuses to blame on anything but the inherent chaos of the sport. For now, this remains a captivating thought experiment. Aspinall's immediate future is one of medical recovery, not super fight preparation. Yet, Cruz's comments ensure that if Aspinall returns to full health and continues his reign, the question of how he would fare against the ghost of Jon Jones's prime will continue to haunt his championship legacy. It's a shadow cast not by a current contender, but by the specter of an all-time great, whose skills, in the eyes of an analyst like Cruz, would have provided the ultimate and perhaps insurmountable test. The fight may never happen, but the debate over who would win has just been given a fresh, technically grounded, and compelling argument in favor of the former king. UFC. The light heavyweight division stands on the precipice of a seismic shift, its immediate future hinging on the ambitions of its reigning king, Alex Pereira. With Poatan publicly and persistently targeting a historic move to heavyweight, potentially to face Jon Jones, the 205-pound throne risks being left vacant. In this climate of uncertainty, the division's most compelling contingency plan is taking shape, as former champion Jiří Procházka has confirmed he is deep in negotiations for a fight against the surging contender, Carlos Ulberg. Jiří took to social media to clarify that reports of a confirmed bout are premature, but his interest is unequivocal. "I want to fight for a title," he stated, pinpointing the end of March as his desired timeline before the arrival of his child in April. This alignment of stars, Jiří's availability, Ulberg's explosive rise, and Pereira's gaze fixed upward, strongly suggests the UFC is preparing for a post-Pereira era at light heavyweight. The very existence of these negotiations is a telling indicator of Pereira's likely path. If Pereira intended to defend his title next, the obvious and marketable fight would be against Ulberg, the division's hottest name coming off a dominant win over Dominic Reyes. The fact that the promotion is instead working to pair Ulberg with Jiří, another former champion, strongly implies they are constructing a title eliminator, or even a bout for an interim or vacant belt. Joe Rogan's public pitch for a Jiří-Ulberg vacant title fight now appears less like fan speculation and more like a prescient reading of the promotional tea leaves. For Jiří, this represents a direct path back to the gold he never lost in the cage, a chance to reclaim his throne without having to go through Pereira a third time. For Ulberg, it's the opportunity of a lifetime to leapfrog into a championship fight and validate his rapid ascent with the ultimate prize. Thus, the light heavyweight title picture is bifurcating. One path leads to heavyweight glory for Pereira, chasing a legacy-defining third crown. The other leads to a savage, high-stakes showdown between Jiří and Ulberg, a fight that promises pure, unadulterated violence between two of the division's most fearsome finishers. The ongoing negotiations are the first crucial step in coronating a new champion or an undeniable #1 contender, ensuring the division doesn't stagnate while Pereira pursues immortality. By the end of March, we may very well have a clear answer. Either a new light heavyweight champion will be crowned, or the man who will challenge Pereira upon his return will be determined. The division is moving, with or without its king, and the first major move is a potential firefight between the Last Samurai and Black Jag. The digital storm that briefly threatened to rewrite the narrative of Michael Morales' perfect ascent has passed, leaving his undefeated record not just restored, but symbolically reinforced. In a remarkable and public about-face, the combat sports database Tapology issued a formal clarification and apology, rescinding its decision to add a 2017 loss from the Ecuadorian reality show Última Pelea to Morales' professional ledger and reinstating his 19-0 status. The reversal was rooted in an admission of inconsistent standards. Tapology conceded that while its current stricter policy might classify such a bout as professional, applying that 2023 framework retroactively to a 2017 event was not fair and not consistent. They acknowledged that had the bout been reported at the time, it would have been accepted as an exhibition, the same status afforded to similar formats like The Ultimate Fighter. This mea culpa, prompted by the shitstorm of feedback, which they noted ranged from fairly dumb to good and helpful, serves as a rare public lesson in the complex, often subjective curation of fighter records in the digital age. For Michael Morales, this episode concludes with his aura not only intact, but arguably strengthened. His furious public rebuke, "Fuck you, Tapology," proved to be a successful defense of his legacy, a fighter directly challenging the arbiters of his own history and winning. The controversy, while stressful, ultimately functioned as a bizarre form of stress test for his marketable undefeated phenom label, and it passed. More importantly, it did absolutely nothing to diminish the tangible evidence of his talent, a pristine 7-0 UFC record capped by a devastating knockout of top contender Sean Brady. As he positions himself for a welterweight title shot against Islam Makhachev, the focus can now return entirely to the violence he promises in the present, not the administrative ambiguities of his teenage past. The incident also highlights the quiet, influential power of sites like Tapology and SureDog, which notably stood firm and did not alter its record, as the modern keepers of MMA history. Their decisions, driven by internal criteria that evolve over time, can spark real-world debates about a fighter's place in the sport. In this case, the self-correction reinforces that these records are living documents, subject to interpretation and revision. For Morales, the final revision is the one that matters. The 0 is back, the loss is again an exhibition, and the path forward is clear. The champion 0 was saved, not in the cage, but in the comment section in the database back end. A strange but definitive victory in the modern fighter's ongoing war for control over their own story.
The UFC's flyweight division, firmly under the reign of Valentina Shevchenko after her decisive win over Zhang Weili, is on the cusp of a clarifying shakeup, with two parallel paths emerging to crown the next true title challenger. The most intriguing development is the reported booking of a high-stakes rematch 5 years in the making. Former champion Alexa Grasso is slated to face the surging Maycee Barber at UFC Seattle on March 28th. This is a fight layered with history and urgency. Grasso defeated Barber via unanimous decision back in 2021, a result that has clearly gnawed at the future as she's climbed the ranks on a 7-fight win streak. For Barber, this is the ultimate opportunity for redemption and validation, a chance to avenge her sole career loss and simultaneously leapfrog into title contention. For Grasso, it's a dangerous road back to relevance after a loss to Natalia Silva. A win proves her victory over Barber was no fluke and reestablishes her as a top-tier threat. The winner will have an undeniable, narrative-rich case for a shot at Shevchenko, especially if they can secure a finish in what promises to be a thrilling striker versus grappler clash. However, the path to the champion's door is not a straight line. Sitting firmly in the lane ahead is the UFC 324 co-main event between Rose Namajunas and the very woman who beat Grasso, Natalia Silva. This bout carries the aura of a de facto #1 contender fight. Silva's 7-0 UFC run, capped by that win over Grasso, makes her a terrifying, dynamic force. Namajunas, a former strawweight champion, represents the ultimate litmus test of Silva's championship medal. Recognizing the unique Taekwondo-based threat Silva presents, Namajunas has brought Olympic Taekwondo champion Christina Teachout into her camp, a move that underscores the fight's technical complexity and high stakes. The winner of Namajunas versus Silva will have the most current, top-tier victory and will likely be first in line, potentially setting up a champion versus champion showdown if Namajunas prevails. Thus, the flyweight title picture is set for a compelling collision of timelines. The UFC Seattle headliner between Grasso and Barber offers a story of revenge and career resurgence. The UFC 324 co-main offers a clash of elite pedigrees to identify the division's most dangerous current force. Shevchenko will be watching closely, her next defense likely dictated by which contender makes the more emphatic statement. Will it be the redemptive arc of Barber or the returning former champ Grasso? Or will it be the sheer, undefeated momentum of Silva or the legendary pedigree of Thug Rose? By the end of March, the roadmap to Bullet will be crystal clear, setting the stage for a massive championship bout in the second half of 2026.
The welterweight division, a landscape perpetually reshuffling in the shadow of champion Islam Makhachev, has a new and volatile contender angling for a fight that could redefine his place in the hierarchy. Joaquin Buckley, the explosive striker coming off a valiant but losing effort against the legendary Kamaru Usman, is not looking for a soft rebound. Instead, he's calling for a high-stakes, style-clash showdown with one of the division's most seasoned and grinding tacticians, Belal Muhammad. In a direct and pointed social media challenge, Buckley didn't just ask for the fight, he demanded specificity, pinning Muhammad to a date, March 7th, let's make it happen in Vegas. This is more than a call-out, it's a strategic gambit from a fighter who believes his recent battles against elite wrestlers like Usman and Colby Covington have forged him into a problem for anyone in the top 10, and who sees Muhammad as the perfect gatekeeper to prove it. For Buckley, this fight represents the logical next step in his evolution from highlight reel knockout artist to legitimate contender. His performance against Usman, where he nearly staged a dramatic late finish, proved his power as a threat for all 15 minutes, even against an all-time great. A matchup with Muhammad is the ultimate test of that newfound resilience. Muhammad is the antithesis of a highlight. He is a methodical, pressure-based wrestler with an iron chin and a relentless pace designed to smother explosive offenses. If Buckley can stop Muhammad's takedowns and find the space to land his fight-ending shots, it would be the most definitive statement of his career, silencing any remaining doubts about his ability to solve the division's elite grapplers. As he stated, the goal for both is a win, but for Buckley, a win over a perennial top 5 name like Muhammad is the key to vaulting into the title conversation. The call-out also places an intriguing spotlight on Belal Muhammad's own trajectory. Riding a 2-fight win streak but still outside the immediate title picture, Muhammad faces a critical decision. Accepting a dangerous, power-punching outlier like Buckley is a high-risk proposition. A loss would severely damage his hard-earned ranking and push him further from another title shot. However, a dominant, grinding victory over an exciting name like Buckley could re-establish his case as a mandatory challenger and remind the division of his stifling effectiveness. Buckley's challenge, with its specific date, forces Muhammad's hand. Does remember the name take the risky fight to stay active and relevant, or does he wait for a more traditional, perhaps safer path back to the top? For the UFC, it's a compelling booking, a guaranteed action fight that pairs one of their most exciting finishers against one of their most consistent technicians, with major implications for the upper tier of a stacked division. On March 7th, if this fight comes to fruition, we'll see whether Joaquin Buckley's power can rewrite the welterweight script, or if Belal Muhammad's grinding calculus can once again solve the equation of violence. In the wake of a highly anticipated but tactically cautious super fight against Zhang Weili at UFC 322, women's flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko is pushing back against a persistent and reductive critique of her sport. Faced with the familiar, often dismissive trope from a segment of fans who mockingly claim to use women's MMA bouts as a bathroom break, Shevchenko offered a pointed and philosophical rebuttal. She argues that such criticism is often mindless repetition rather than genuine analysis, a meme passed along without critical thought. Most people don't ask themselves what, how, or why. They simply repeat what they're told, Shevchenko stated, framing the dismissal as a lazy echo rather than an informed opinion. In its place, she advocates for a different lens of appreciation, one that values the unique aesthetic and technical dimensions women bring to the cage. She highlights the beautiful form that highlights physique and athleticism, the combination of strength but also grace, and the execution of complex, varied techniques like spinning strikes as art forms distinct from the often brutish power displays celebrated in men's divisions. This defense arrives at a pivotal moment for the visibility and perception of women's MMA. The criticism Shevchenko addresses often peaks after technical, strategic battles that prioritize control over chaos, a style she has mastered, but one that some audiences conflate with a lack of action. Her response is a call to refine the viewer's palate, to recognize the sophistication and athletic artistry in a well-executed game plan. The upcoming co-main event of UFC 324, featuring the powerhouse clash between Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes, presents a starkly different archetype, one built on overwhelming force and the high probability of a violent finish. Shevchenko likely sees this not as a repudiation of her style, but as a complementary showcase of the division's diversity. The Harrison-Nunes fight has the potential to shatter the bathroom break narrative through sheer undeniable spectacle, proving that women's MMA can deliver both the graceful, technical chess match and the earth-shattering highlight reel explosion. Thus, Shevchenko's comments are more than just a defense of her own performances. They are an advocacy for a broader, more nuanced appreciation of the women's game. She positions herself not just as a champion, but as a curator of a specific, high-level craft within the sport. As she prepares for her next title defense and the women's divisions continue to evolve, her hope is that the conversation matures alongside the athletes. The goal is for critics to move beyond simplistic, derogatory memes and engage with the fights on their own technical and strategic terms, whether they are balletic displays of control like hers or the destructive firefights that others promise. In doing so, Shevchenko is fighting a battle outside the cage, one for respect, recognition, and the rightful place of women's MMA as a multifaceted and compelling pillar of the sport, worthy of undivided attention from bell to bell.
The long, bitter war between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, a rivalry that defined a generation of the light heavyweight division, has found an unlikely and intriguing potential coda. Not a third MMA fight, but a pure wrestling match on the mats. As the two legends prepare to face off as coaches on a Russian reality show, reigniting their timeless feud for a new audience, Cormier has openly mused about settling their score in the Real American Freestyle promotion, a venue that has become a haven for elite grapplers and retired stars. On this hypothetical battleground, Islam Makhachev, a close friend and training partner of Cormier, offers a fascinating and brutally honest assessment. While he implies a third MMA bout would be a difficult task for Cormier at this stage, he paints a different picture for a wrestling-only contest. Only in wrestling could Cormier handle Jones, Makhachev stated, framing the mat as Cormier's true domain. He acknowledges Jones's formidable wrestling within MMA, but draws a clear distinction, noting Cormier's Olympic-level pedigree as a different, rarefied tier of skill. That is a very high level, Makhachev emphasized, suggesting that in a sport stripped of strikes and submissions, Cormier's foundational, world-class grappling could theoretically neutralize Jones's physical advantages and unorthodox style. This analysis from Makhachev, a reigning champion in one of the sport's premier grapplers, adds significant weight to the fantasy matchup. It transforms the idea from mere nostalgia into a compelling stylistic debate.
In the octagon, Jones's reach, striking, and uniquely creative clinch game were the difference makers. On the mats, the equation changes. Cormier's pressure, his explosive doubles, and his grinding chain wrestling prowess, honed in global freestyle competition, would be the sole weapons in play. Makhachev's comment subtly highlights the difference between MMA wrestling, a tool for control and positioning, and the purist, point-scoring discipline of Olympic-style freestyle, where Cormier's credentials are virtually untouchable by anyone in the sport's history. Whether this wrestling match ever materializes remains to be seen, but its mere discussion serves to reframe their rivalry one final time. It offers Cormier a path to a symbolic victory in the one arena where his technical superiority is unquestioned, and it offers fans a dream what-if scenario that bypasses the complications of age, weight cuts, and the wear and tear of an MMA camp. For now, as they coach opposite each other on reality TV, the specter of a final, pure athletic contest on the mats will linger, a tantalizing possibility that even Jon Jones's greatest ally in the current championship picture believes could finally tilt the scales in Daniel Cormier's favor. It's a final chapter that would trade gloves for singlets and cage-side seats for mat-side views, but would carry all the weight of a legacy-seeking trilogy fight. The carefully constructed narrative for UFC 324's interim lightweight title fight, a centerpiece designed to launch the UFC's Paramount Plus era with the star power of Paddy Pimblett and the violent appeal of Justin Gaethje, now finds itself under the threatening cloud of a medical mystery and a rising tide of public demand for sporting justice. The emergence of a mysterious mark on Gaethje's neck, speculated by fans to be a staph infection, has done more than raise health concerns. It has reignited the simmering controversy over Arman Tsarukyan's title shot snub and crystallized it into a single, urgent question. Should the UFC's commercial vision yield to a contender's deserved opportunity if fate intervenes? Gaethje's swift dismissal of the mark as a healing ingrown hair has temporarily calmed the medical panic, but the psychological damage is done. The mere possibility of a compromised Gaethje has laid bare the underlying tension fans have felt since the bout was announced, that Pimblett's path, built on popularity over a top 10 resume, has been fortuitous, facing an aging Michael Chandler, and now potentially a less than 100% Gaethje. As one fan starkly put it, the fear is a scenario where Gaethje, like TJ Dillashaw before him, fights at 50% and suffers a needless loss, all while the most deserving contender watches from the sidelines. This atmosphere has transformed Tsarukyan from a sidelined critic into the people's champion in waiting. His proactive declaration that he is training as the unofficial backup, ready to step in on short notice, now appears prescient rather than petulant. The fan reaction to the Gaethje scare has been a unified chorus calling for this exact scenario. Comments like, "Get on a plane, Arman, make Paddy earn it," and "Please, please pull out before it's too late so Arman can be a replacement," represent more than just support for Tsarukyan. They are a rejection of the perceived engineered path for Pimblett and a demand for the meritocratic showdown that was bypassed. They frame Tsarukyan not as an alternative, but as the correction to an original sporting error. This puts the UFC in a precarious position. Their flagship main event is now shadowed by doubts about one fighter's health and the other fighter's legitimacy in the eyes of a vocal segment of the fanbase. Thus, the final weeks before UFC 324 have become a high-pressure test of the promotion's priorities. If Gaethje is truly healthy and delivers a classic highlight performance, the interim title will feel earned and the controversy may fade. But if any hint of impairment surfaces, or if Gaethje were to withdraw, the UFC faces a monumental choice. Inserting Tsarukyan would be a dramatic, sports-first mea culpa that would instantly legitimize the interim crown, but force Pimblett into a far more dangerous stylistic nightmare. Sticking with a replacement of Pimblett's choosing would be seen as protecting their investment at the cost of the title's credibility.
The staph scare, whether real or not, has already succeeded. It has exposed the fragile foundation of the interim title narrative and empowered the ghost of the fight that should have been made. Now, every update on Gaethje's neck will be scrutinized, not just for his health, but for its potential to finally open the door for Arman Tsarukyan to walk through and claim what many believe has been his all along.
The pristine, untarnished zero that precedes a fighter's record is more than a digit. It is a myth, a marketing tool, and a psychological fortress. For Michael Morales, the surging welterweight phenom whose highlight reel knockout of Sean Brady announced him as a title threat, that fortress was unexpectedly breached not by a rival in the cage, but by a database update. The combat sports statistics site Tapology sent a tremor through his narrative by revising his professional record from a perfect 19-0 to 20-1, citing a previously unlogged bout from a 2017 Ecuadorian reality show tournament, Ultima Pelea. In that contest, an 18-year-old Morales was submitted by the more experienced Ricardo Centeno. Tapology's justification that the tournament's rules in the presence of established pros met its criteria of professional MMA collided head-on with the conventional understanding of a fighter's official, UFC-led record. Morales' furious response, "I'll punch injustice right in the face, F you Tapology," was a raw defense of his hard-earned, undefeated aura, a rejection of a loss that feels, in the context of his current dominance, like an archival phantom rather than a legitimate sporting result. This incident exposes the fragile and often arbitrary nature of a fighter's official record in the decentralized world of MMA. Unlike boxing, with its centralized sanctioning bodies, MMA records are composite images built from various databases, athletic commissions, and promotional histories. The UFC, for its purposes, will almost certainly continue to market Morales based on his unblemished record within their promotion in the major leagues that preceded it. The Ultima Pelea bout exists in a gray area, a professionally structured fight for a teenager on a reality show, a format that the UFC's own The Ultimate Fighter carefully designates as exhibition. Tapology's decision to treat one reality format as pro and another as not highlights the inconsistency that fighters must navigate. For Morales, the practical impact is likely minimal. His ranking, his upcoming fights, and his trajectory toward a title shot remain unchanged. Yet the symbolic sting is real. That one now sits in the digital record books, a permanent footnote that, fair or not, will accompany his name in certain corners of the sport's history. Ultimately, this is a battle of narratives. The narrative Morales has built, one of a destructive, unstoppable force rising through the UFC ranks, remains intact based on the evidence that matters most, his performances under the bright lights. The narrative imposed by Tapology is one of archival completeness, a commitment to logging every contest that meets a specific, albeit debatable definition of professional. The true test will come in the cage. If Michael Morales continues his violent ascent and eventually captures UFC gold, the 2017 loss on a reality show will be relegated to a curious trivia question, a historical asterisk overshadowed by championship glory. His legacy will be written by the fights everyone saw, not the one a website rediscovered. For now, the episode serves as a reminder that in the digital age, a fighter's record is not just earned with fists, it is also curated, debated, and sometimes rewritten from afar. The most venomous, deeply personal rivalry in UFC history, a feud that defined an era of the light heavyweight division and spilled over into genuine animosity, is poised for an unlikely and fascinating third act, not on the octagon, but on the set of a reality show. Joan Jones and Daniel Cormier, whose two epic fights were overshadowed by years of bitter trash talk, physical altercations, and mutual disdain, will stand across from each other once more as opposing coaches on Reality 3.
A recent face-off photo from the production, devoid of the usual fight week hostility, has already gone viral, symbolizing the surreal new chapter in their storied dynamic. While Cormier has stated the nasty beef is over, but friendship remains unlikely, Jones is projecting a more optimistic vision. In his first comments, Jones framed the experience as a chance for reconciliation. "I think his coming out here would be a great opportunity for us to mend this jacked-up relationship, to maybe start a friendship." This represents a dramatic tonal shift from the man who once vowed to piss on Cormier's legacy, suggesting a conscious effort from Jones to use the collaborative, prolonged exposure of the show as a vehicle for closure and perhaps even camaraderie. However, the ghosts of competition are not so easily exorcised. Cormier's remarks, while acknowledging the end of the hostility, carry a more reserved, competitive edge. He has already teased the possibility of a future wrestling match under the Real American Freestyle banner, a hint that the desire to finally best Jones, even in a different arena, still simmers beneath the surface. This creates a compelling dual narrative for their reality show stint. On one level, it will be marketed as a story of reconciliation, two aging legends putting the past behind them to guide the next generation. On another, it will be impossible to ignore the underlying current of unfinished sporting business, the history of one-sided results. Jones won both UFC fights, though the second was overturned to a no contest, and the pride of two ultra-competitive alphas. Their interactions will be scrutinized for any hint of the old tension or the authenticity of a new detente. Thus, Ulf Reality 3 becomes more than a talent search. It is a high-stakes experiment in legacy management and personal evolution. Can these two men, who built legendary careers in part by hating each other, successfully coexist in a cooperative format? Will the forced proximity and shared goal of coaching foster the friendship Jones hopes for, or will it merely provide a new, more civil stage for their enduring competitive friction? For fans, it offers a tantalizing glimpse behind the curtain of a feud that felt endlessly bitter, a chance to see if time and distance have truly healed those wounds, or if the respect they now publicly express is merely a quieter form of the same rivalry. When the show airs, the focus will nominally be on the prospects, but the undeniable draw will be the slow, unscripted drama between the two coaches, a final, fascinating bout in their long war, this time fought with words and gestures rather than fists and elbows, with legacy and peace as the ultimate prizes.
The specter of the scale looms as large as any opponent for Kayla Harrison, casting a long and worrying shadow over the build-up to her first UFC bantamweight title defense. As she prepares to face the legendary Amanda Nunes in the historic co-main event of UFC 324, it is not Nunes's legendary power that is generating the most urgent fan concern, but rather a simple social media post, a video of Harrison sweating in a sauna, posted nearly 3 weeks before fight night. For a champion who has openly detailed the brutal, months-long process of shedding over 30 pounds to make the 135-pound limit, a grind so severe she once admitted to peeing blood a week before a fight, this glimpse into her routine is a stark reminder of the physical tax her championship reign demands. The comments beneath the post are a chorus of alarm and confusion, with fans questioning the very logic of the fight's weight class. "What's even the point?" one asked, while others called the cuts absolutely brutal and illegal and bad for athletes' health. This public anxiety transforms her weight cut from a private battle into a central, unsettling subplot to the superfight itself. This concern is magnified by the unique danger of her opponent. Harrison has navigated her UFC run thus far against grapplers and lesser strikers, where a weight-drained performance could be overcome with her Olympic-level judo. Amanda Nunes represents a catastrophic upgrade in threat level. "Nunes hits way too hard for you to be having this rough a weight cut," one fan astutely noted, predicting a knockout.
The peril is twofold. A draining cut can sap the explosive power and relentless pressure that define Harrison's game, while also potentially compromising her chin and cardio, the very attributes she will need to survive Nunes's early onslaught and impose her will in the later rounds. Every hour spent in the sauna, every pound painfully shed, is not just a step toward making weight, it is a potential subtraction from the physical resources she will have to draw upon in the most significant fight of her life. The intrigue deepens with the revelation of Nunes's preparation. In a clever and symbolic move, the Lioness has enlisted the help of Larissa Pacheco, the only woman to ever defeat Harrison in MMA. This is more than just strategic insight, it's a psychological declaration. Nunes is not just studying Harrison, she is being coached by the architect of her sole defeat, a fighter who solved the puzzle of Harrison's pressure and found a path to victory. It creates a fascinating dichotomy, one champion engaged in a visible, grueling war with her own body, while the other quietly sharpens her weapons with the guidance of a proven conqueror. When they finally meet at UFC 324, the battle will be as much about Harrison's ability to withstand her own punishing process as it is about her ability to withstand Nunes's fists. The sauna video is a haunting preview, a reminder that before Kayla Harrison can defend her title against a legend, she must first survive the most dangerous fight of her week, the one against the scale.